Imagination about a fictional country of Wakanda. But this week, a British wildlife photographer brought the real Black Panther to the world after capturing the rare black leopard on film during a safari in Kenya. The photographing of this secretive jaguar has sparked a major discussion in social media and wildlife circles. Earlier, we were joined by on Skype by Burrard-Lucas, the man who captured the rare African cat on film earlier this week, and this is what he had to say from the UK.
Always been aware of black panthers, of course, because they are so famous through stories and, through the recent film. And so they've always been a creature that I would have loved to have photographed, but they're actually incredibly rare in the wild. And so I never really thought I would ever get to see one in the wild or photograph one. But then a few months ago, I heard that one had been seen up in Laikipia in Kenya. And so I decided to get in touch with the landowners to find out a bit more about it and whether it was something they were seeing regularly and if I might be able to capture some images of it. And on speaking to them, it sounded like, it was worth checking out. So I went up there to really as a recce trip to see if maybe I would spend a few months there, I might be able to get a shot. But actually during the trip itself, we found leopard tracks, and the people there that I was speaking to had seen it recently, and so I set up my camera traps. And after a few nights, I hadn't got anything, and I was beginning to think, there's no way I'm ever going to capture a photograph of this elusive cat. But then on the fourth night, as I was scrolling through my pictures on the back of the camera, this one photo of the black leopard appeared, and that it was a dream come true, really.
A dream come true, but caused such a global conversation. Were you ready for this response?
I knew what I'd captured was incredibly special because I had never personally seen, such close-up, high-quality photographs of an African black leopard. So I knew it was special. I knew certain people were going to be very excited about these photos. And so I was expecting, some reaction, but I didn't really expect the mass media coverage that the photos got. So yes, it did take us all a bit by surprise.
As television people, one aspect of it that fascinates us is the type of camera that you were using to be able to capture so clearly this image. What sort of facility are you using?
So this is actually a camera system that I developed myself to capture these images. So what it is, it's the normal high-quality camera that any photographer would use to capture photographs. But I turned them into a camera trap. So this is a stationary camera which I leave on game paths and trails around the area. And I've developed a sensor which detects when an animal passes the camera and then automatically triggers the camera. And so what this means is that I can leave my cameras out for days or weeks at a time on certain trails that I know the leopard is using. And then it's just a case of leaving them for long enough until the leopard comes past. And then when it does come past, the camera goes off and I use off-camera flashes to create this dramatic lighting.
So you've captured the images now and there's all this global interest. What's going to happen from here on?
So it all happened very quickly, and actually I would love to try and capture more images of this leopard because really I had kind of a short period of time there and I feel there's a lot more that can be done with it. So my hope is that I can capture more images and maybe work on a larger project focusing on the leopards of Laikipia with a view to maybe doing a book and helping more in the conservation efforts that are going on around leopards in that area.
How are you responding to some of the especially African responses that are saying there isn't really any rarity to this event that took place, and there are people before who've been able to capture these images?
Yes, so I never claimed that these were the first photos, and certainly black leopards have been recorded all over Africa. But often the images that have been captured have been from a very great distance, or of captive black leopards, or taken with very low quality research trail cameras. And so I've always claimed, not that these are the first images, but that these are the first images this type, these close-up nighttime camera trap images. And I think, the global response to the images and the fact that nobody's seen images like this before, that's all I'm really, trying to emphasize. But it's hard to always communicate the message, and sometimes the press don't always get the right headline.
You seem a bit unfazed by all this hype. How has it affected you personally?
Oh, it's been a very busy week, very tiring in terms of
I know.
trying
Who
to
would have
respond
thought we'd be talking to you right now?
Yes, exactly. But no, it's obviously just been wonderful to help, show people this animal, get people excited and inspired by the natural world. Also, hopefully encouraging people to go visit Africa, look for wildlife in these different countries, and promote tourism. And tourism really is the best way, I feel, to bring revenue to local communities and to encourage people to conserve the natural world.
Absolutely, you're so correct. You're talking about promoting tourism, but beyond that, what is the significance of being able to make these kind of, not really discoveries, but to highlight that these animals are still there and they still exist?
Yeah, I think it's very important, and I guess that is what I try and do, is I try and show people things they maybe haven't seen before, to get people, to make a connection with people, to get people to notice, because there's so much in people's social media feeds, showing people something that does make them stop and pause and comment and think. I think that's a trigger that can then, trigger and inspire people to care more, or to maybe take actions to help conservation or to travel and support local communities. So that's really what I hope.
So now the thing about being thrown into the spotlight is that we now know you, and everyone wants to know, who is Will Burrard-Lucas?
Well, so I guess I'm a wildlife photographer. I've been passionate about wildlife and nature for as long as I can remember, really. I spent 3 years growing up in Tanzania when I was very young, and so my first memories are of being on safari. And that's where my love of the African continent and of wildlife started. And then I got into photography much later with digital cameras. When they came along, I sort of got my first digital camera, and it really clicked for me. And my passion for the natural world and my passion for photography very quickly merged, and I found myself trying to photograph animals as much as possible. And so from that point, I kind of intentionally built up the photography, trying to, raise my profile and build a following, until in 2010, I was able to start doing the photography full time. And since then, I've primarily worked in Africa, across the continent, really,